I remember when I got inside this Uber that was supposed to be an hour-long ride. I remember she looks over at me sitting in the back and she goes, so, your name's Bubba? Yeah, hi. So why are you driving an hour? And when I told her the story, let's just say she ended up saying, well, I mean, I can quickly park if you want to, you know, have some fun. And that's when I realized this Uber driver was sus. Yo, what is going on, you guys? My name's Bubba, and welcome back to another insane but super embarrassing story. So this story takes place back 2 years ago. Now, 2 years ago, I was just a basic dude making stories online and just kind of doing my own thing. And I remember one time 2 years ago, I was filming a video for, you know, just to post on the channel. And as I was in the middle of telling a crazy story that happened to me, out of nowhere, I ended up getting a phone call. I ended up seeing it was one of the girls from back when I was in high school that, honestly, I haven't spoken to in a long time. I wasn't sure why this girl was calling me, but honestly, I decided to basically pick up and say, hey, like, what's going on? OMG, Bubba, is this still your number? Yeah, what's up? Oh, well, honestly, like, it's been so long, and I was wondering, do you want to, like, maybe, like, hang out sometime? Are you asking me out? Well, kind of, not really. I mean, honestly, like, I was just, like, you know, wanting to see if we could, like, reconnect. I'm calling some people to see, like, you know, how's life going with others and stuff. I realized when she was stuttering and being super awkward, I ended up telling her, I mean, sure, do you want me to pick you up? Yeah, that would be awesome. Here, I'll tell you my address. She ended up telling me her address, and I remember later on that day, we decided to meet up. And right as this girl hung up the phone, I ended up calling another one of my homies. Now, the reason I called my friend was because honestly, he was like the only person I still spoke to after high school. And, you know, ever since I ended up, you know, growing on the internet. And when I called him, I said, yo, bro, remember that girl from high school? Yeah, wait, what about her? Well, apparently she like just called me and she wants to like go out. Wait, what? Seriously? Yeah, like, I don't really know why. At that moment, I ended up like basically discussing details with him about how I used to like this girl back in high school, but then nothing ever happened. So I decided to give up on it. And as we were talking about it, I remember he said, Bubba, you gotta understand, back then, she didn't go for you and things didn't happen. Why would it all of a sudden happen now? In my opinion, cancel the date, bro. You might get into a sticky situation. And honestly, that was advice I wish I took, but I didn't. If you guys don't know, one of the reasons why I have a lot of crazy stories is because I go through life saying yes. So right as I hung up the phone to my homie, I ended up finishing my video that I had to do, and I ended up getting ready to go see this girl. I remember as I was driving on the way to her place, I got super nervous because I ended up driving into the town that I grew up in. And once I finally got to her place, I remember I ended up picking her up. Me and her, we ended up going on this like coffee date to the city. And right as I parked my car, we ended up going to a cafe. When we walked inside the cafe, I remember she was telling me all about her life and stuff and how, you know, how it's crazy things change throughout high school till now, which I'm gonna be honest with you guys here. If you guys are in high school right now, or even in middle school, when you guys reach graduation, nothing's the same. Everything you did in high school or was known for in high school won't matter. As sad as that is, going on with the story, I remember she ended up telling me, oh, and like, honestly, like, I heard about all the stuff you're doing online. It's honestly insane. Yeah, I don't really know. It's fun, I guess. Yeah, honestly, like, I wish my boyfriend could do something like that. I remember I looked at her and I'm like, wait, what? Your boyfriend? And that's when I was so confused. I was kind of like really annoyed as well because like, who goes on like a one-on-one date with a guy and then that has a boyfriend? Like, what? So I ended up telling her, I didn't know you had a boyfriend. Oh, yeah, I do. Don't you remember him from high school? And when she told me his name, no joke, I was fuming. And the reason I was so mad was because the guy she ended up saying was one of the guys that used to pick on me back in high school, saying that I was going to be nothing with my future. I ended up getting really upset and I looked at her and said, wait, so if you have a boyfriend, why'd you ask me out here? Oh, well, to be honest, like I heard about like all the social media online stuff you're doing and I was wondering if you could help me out promote some stuff. At that moment, I got so annoyed and I got up and I said, listen, like I really don't have time for this and I thought you were cool or something, but I'll be honest, you're just a jerk. At that moment, I remember my friend's advice and honestly, at that moment, I wish I took it. But things were just about to go insane because as me and her were exiting the cafe, she ended up like trying to make it up to me and kept apologizing and everything. But right as we finally got up to my car, I realized that my car wasn't there. Apparently, I got towed. So I thought this day couldn't get any worse, but my vehicle got towed since apparently the parking meter ran out of minutes and I was doomed. I ended up getting stuck in the middle of the city with a chick that literally has a boyfriend. I thought things couldn't get worse, but honestly, they did because I remember me and her just ended up looking at each other and she said, oh, okay, well, you know what? Maybe it'd be smart if you called an Uber. You want me to call an Uber? Yeah, like, don't you have the app? At this moment, I did not have the app. I never used it because I had a damn car, so there was no point in me getting an Uber app. But I ended up downloading that day. And by the way, this is not sponsored, so Uber, if you're watching this, pay me. But going on, right as I download the app, I ended up booking my Uber for my place. But then this girl looks over over at my phone and she saw I was doing that and said, wait, Bubba, are you not going to drop me off home? At that moment, I felt bad and I honestly was going to say no, but I felt bad again. So I ended up saying, yeah, sure. Here, type down your address. She ended up putting down her address and we waited like 5 minutes for an Uber to show up. And when we finally got the Uber, I remember me and her, we got inside the car and we started heading first to her place. I don't know why she put her place first in the address, but I guess she just did not want to see me after what happened. But I remember during the Uber ride, I kept looking at the driver and the driver kept looking at me in her rear view mirror. And she kept staring me down, looking at me very awkwardly until finally she spoke and said, oh, so like, are you guys like together? I remember me and her looked at each other and we're like, no, like, you know, we're just friends from high school. Oh, okay. Not to make weird anything. Wasn't sure. And she kept driving. When we finally got to her place, she ended up leaving the car without even saying goodbye to me and ended up slamming the door shut. At that moment, the Uber driver looks at me again and says, so, your name's Bubba? Yeah, it's just my middle name is what I told her. And then that's when she said, oh, honestly, like there's a lot of tension in the car. Like what was going on between you guys? You guys like just break up or something? And that's when I ended up telling her basically everything that happened from me, you know, going up to meet her and, you know, picking her up, my car getting towed. Basically, I trauma dumped her. I'm not gonna lie. And I remember she ended up looking at the map on her phone, going back to my place, and she saw it was an hour ride back since I literally went to a different town just to meet up with this girl. And she said to me, well, honestly, I could quickly park if you want some action. At that moment, I had really no idea what she was talking about until she ended up parking the car into an alleyway in the city. And she ended up getting out of the car, going to the back seat beside me. And well, yeah, apparently I did get some action. I ended up doing the devil's tango with my Uber driver, which by the way, this Uber driver was super sus for doing that, which is honestly insane. But I remember me and her were in the back seat, shaking the car for like a good, like, I don't know, maybe like 20 minutes. And then finally when things ended, she ended up getting out, going back to the front seat and started driving back to my place. Honestly, I felt really uncomfortable with her knowing my address since, you know, we just did the devil's tango. But honestly, she ended up actually making some pretty good conversation on the way there. And I think the weirdest part was that she was talking about her 2 kids very comfortably after we literally just did the devil's tango. Honestly, I'll never know and understand people nowadays, but I'll be honest, if you guys would do your Uber driver, then fall for more embarrassing stories just like this one. Peace out, guys. And when I saw the photo she sent me a photo of her cherries with my name on it. I thought this girl was my friend. Yo, what is going on, you guys? My name's Bubba, and welcome back to another really embarrassing story. So today's story all takes place back in my high school years, and this was my grade 10 year. Now in grade 10, I'm not gonna lie to you, as you guys may know, I was a major player. And I'm not gonna lie to you, one of the main things I would always do is just go out and do the devil's tango. And from me doing this, it got to a point where a lot of girls in my school knew about me being the ultimate F-boy and doing the devil's tango. So much that it made a lot of girls not want to be friends with me. Which, to be fair, I never really complained about because, well, there's over 7 billion girls on this planet. Like, let's be real here, 1 or 4 girls hating me wasn't really so bad. But going on with the story, I remember one time I was just walking down the school hallway and I remember there was one girl that kept staring at me, but at the same time, she kind of like stared at me as if she hated my guts. Now, I don't know why she hated my guts, probably because I ended up doing the devil's tango with like someone that she knew, and I guess she got a bad experience or whatever, or got a bad taste in her mouth. But one thing I will say was that it really wasn't my issue. I just found it really odd that she kept staring at me as if she wanted to kill me. And I'm not gonna lie to you, also got to the point where my friends even started to notice that this girl was staring at me at random moments throughout the school day. Until I remember one day specifically where I ended up going to rugby practice, because back when I was in grade 10, I played rugby. And I remember when I went on the field and, you know, basically practice ended, I ended up seeing the girl sitting on the side of the field with her friends and just talking. They were talking, but at the same time, as they were like speaking to each other, the same girl that would always stare at me ended up pointing me out with her pointer finger as if she was trying to put the blame on me for something. At that point, I remember I was really just like fed up with it, and I kind of just ended up walking towards the direction to see what in the world does this girl have to say about me. As I walked by her and her friend group, I remember she ended up making a really snarky comment about me basically having a small eggplant. At that point, I remember I turned around, I looked at her, and I'm like, what's your deal? Like, honestly, like, do you just naturally just hate me? At that point, I remember her friends ended up standing up and walking away because they didn't want to really have an awkward interaction. And I remember she looks at me and says, you know, you're just a player, right? Like, no one really cares. What do you mean no one really cares? Like, what's your problem? Like, you don't even know my eggplant. I don't even know why you would talk about it to random girls. But you don't know anything about women. I know nothing about women? Well, to be honest, a lot of girls talk about me apparently, so there's clearly something I know about women if I get spoken about a lot by them. At that point, she started laughing. She started laughing and basically giggling laughing, thinking that, you know, this was some kind of joke. Until eventually she looked at me and said, Bubba, other than doing the devil's tango with girls, have you actually ever been friends with one? At that point, I froze. I'm not gonna lie to you, I never actually became like normal friends with a girl at this point in my life. And I remember she looks at me and says, Bubba, it sounds like you need just a friend that's a girl, not someone to do the devil's tango with all the time. At that point, I remember I ended up sitting down beside her with my rugby uniform, and me and her, we just started talking about, well, I guess life. I don't know. It really is interesting how a girl sees life compares to a guy. And honestly, I will say it's actually quite the experience to just get their understanding of things. And I remember it got to one point where me and her, we ended up exchanging social media accounts, and we ended up basically adding each other. And from there, we ended up speaking more and more. We started speaking more and more, and I'm not gonna lie to you, from there, it got to a point where we actually just started hanging out with each other, which is usually weird because when a guy and a girl hang out with each other, for me, it's usually known as a date. But for me and this girl, it just seemed like hanging out with like one of the guys, as odd as that seems. If you guys ever had this kind of friendship, comment down below. But for me, it was very odd to see this. And I remember it got to a point where me and her, like, we made it very obvious to each other that we were just friends. And even people throughout the school and even the boys that were a part of my friend group knew that me and this girl were just only clearly friends. I'm not gonna lie, at first I really enjoyed this, but as most things, good things must always come to an end, because what ends up happening next, I gotta say, really changed everything. Where I remember one time, one of the boys that were, you know, close friends of mine ended up walking up to me when I'm hanging out with this girl, and he looks at me saying, yo, Bubba, bro, I'm not gonna lie, man, I'm having a huge party this weekend. I was wondering if you guys want to come maybe? Oh yeah, sure, I'm down, is what the girl says. And me, I end up looking at him and just shaking my head, yeah, because, well, it's just a party. What's the worst that could happen? 2 days go by. It was a Friday night, and the party starts happening, and I ended up going to pick up the girl that was just a friend, and basically me and her, we ended up heading towards this party together. We ended up showing up together, and honestly, we ended up hanging out with a bunch of people and stuff. And I remember there was one girl at the party that really just kept looking at me and was really attracted to me. And for some reason, the girl that I brought to the party with me, the one that was my friend, well, apparently she did not like this girl whatsoever. But as for me, well, I'm not gonna lie to you, it was my grade 10 year. I was still a major player. So I remember I looked at this girl and I thought she was hot, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna go talk to her. As I go up and start walking up towards her, I remember the girl that was my friend ended up grabbing me by the shoulder and saying, Bubba, you don't want to talk to her. Trust me, she's toxic. Like, take it from a true friend. Bro, what do you mean? It's gonna be fine. She's hot. Like, look at her. Like, come on. You can't tell me she's not attractive. And I ended up pushing her off me, and I basically ended up walking towards the hot girl that was at the party. At that point, the night goes on, and I remember around like halfway through the night, out of nowhere, me and this hot girl were just sitting at like the couch together, basically getting close and mingling. And out of nowhere, the girl that was my friend ended up walking up towards me, handing me a drink, saying, Bubba, I was just wondering, do you want to like maybe go talk outside? I'm kind of busy right now, is what I told her. And she seemed really upset, and she said once again, Bubba, can I see you outside? Okay, yeah, sure. I quickly got up, and I remember the hot girl just ended up looking at me super confused, because like, what kind of girl would just say that to a single man? And I remember when me and her went outside, she ended up basically telling me, Bubba, I'm gonna be honest, like, seriously move on. Like, she's not a good girl for you. How would you know what's a good girl for me? Bubba, trust me, I know things. You really don't, is what I told her. And I remember right as I go back to the couch and started talking to this hot girl again, me and this hot girl ended up making out on the couch at that party. I gotta say, one of my most iconic moments at a party. Actually, I have it filmed, funny enough. So if you guys do want to see that, follow the channel and just prepare for it, because eventually I will show you guys all the evidence and proof that the stories are real. But going on with the story, I remember when me and her were making out on the couch, out of nowhere, I ended up seeing in the corner of my eye, the girl that was my friend just staring at me in anger. Like, I've never seen a girl's face go tomato red. And at that point, I'm not gonna lie to you, things were gonna get nasty. Because what ends up happening next, I gotta say, extremely freaked me out. I remember the next day, it was a Saturday, and I was just home alone, just planning to play video games and play some Call of Duty and just call it a good night for myself. But then out of nowhere, I ended up getting a phone call, seeing that it was the girl that was my friend. I ended up answering the phone saying, hey, like, what's going on? You okay? Bubba, I gotta be honest with you. Last night, you really, like, made me upset. Okay, what about it, is what I told her. And she says, well, I'm not gonna lie to you, like, I've been thinking about you a lot recently, and like, maybe we could actually like try going on a date. At that point, I realized that this girl went from being my friend to actually falling for me. And at that point, well, I'm not gonna lie to you, I decided to stick to my player ways, and I ended up saying sure. Me and this girl, we actually ended up going on a date, and to be honest, she ended up actually just coming over to my place. And one thing led to another. I ended up doing the devil's tango with one of my best friends that were a girl. I gotta say, after that, everything changed, and me and her, we started realizing that after doing the devil's tango, we can never go back to just being normal friends. It just wouldn't make sense anymore. In a way, I guess us doing the devil's tango ruined our friendship. But at the same time, if you guys have friends that are girls, then just fall for more embarrassing stories. Peace out, guys. I remember this girl walked up to me and she told me, hey, Bubba, I was wondering, do you want to like maybe go on a date? A date? Isn't that like a type of food? No, it's like when me and you like get to like hang out. Wait, so why not just hang out? Because I want to do it romantically. Wait, so you want to romantically hang out? Yo, what is going on, you guys? My name's Bubba and welcome back to another insane story. Now, as you guys may know on this channel, if you guys are regular watchers, I've been on many different dates and I've been with many different types of women. One, because I was a major player, but also on top of that, I just really had no standards. And one thing's for sure, this story that I'm about to tell you guys is where it basically all began. My first date ever. And the way the story starts off was me back in grade 6. Now, back when I was in grade 6, I was a very innocent kid. Like, the only things I would do is play Pokemon, Call of Duty, hop on my Xbox, and kind of just be to myself. I was a big fan of Batman, still am to this day, and honestly, the only things like I really understood about women was basically little to nothing other than what my mother has told me. But I remember there was one time back in my grade 6 year, and this was like literally like the first week of grade 6, where I entered into middle school, and I'm not gonna lie, I did not expect me to basically be attracted to women. No, I'm not saying that I was, you know, part of the LGBTQ community, but in a way, like, I just never thought about, you know, being with a girl or doing anything with them. The only things I cared about at the time was just me, myself, and I. So I remember when I entered into middle school for my first grade 6 year, I remember I was walking down the school hallway and I saw some of my friends from elementary school. Now, these friends I haven't seen all summer at the time, and I remember I ended up walking up to them saying, oh, hey guys, what you guys all up to? Oh, hey Bubba, we're just all hanging out, man. We're gonna go outside and like just chill, maybe like, you know, scout some baddies. Do you want to come out and join us? Scout some baddies? What are we playing, cops and robbers? At this moment, as you can clearly tell, I was really still innocent, but these guys apparently throughout the summer ended up hitting puberty way faster than I did, and well, decided to be more, I guess, in the naughty side of things. I remember when I said cops and robbers though, they all ended up starting to laugh at me, and they realized that I haven't grown up, to the point where one of them ended up walking up to me, putting his hand on my shoulder and saying, oh, Bubba, you still haven't grown up, have you, bro? All right, boys, let's get out of here. And they all went to go look for some baddies, I guess. I don't know. At the time, I guess they ended up changing for the worse, and I realized that I maybe need to get new friends. So I remember walking around my middle school, and I ended up finding a group of people that were basically addicted to their 3DSs. If you guys don't know, the 3DS just came out at this time, and I remember I ended up sitting with them and playing Super Smash Brothers with them. This was the only type of smashing I would do back in middle school until I reached high school, but you guys already know about me doing the devil's tango. But I remember as I was sitting there playing on my 3DS, there was one girl, a part of that like group of people that were playing on their 3DS consoles, that were all just sitting down on this bench, and I remember she saw me pull up with my 3DS, and I had a Super Mario limited edition one, and she looked at me saying, oh my goodness, is that like a rare 3DS? How'd you get that? Oh yeah, my mom got it for me. Oh cool, do you want to play together? Yeah, of course. I remember me and her, we ended up sitting beside each other, and I remember all the people that would like play with us ended up basically coupling us as a group. They kept saying things like Bubba and this girl kissing in a tree, K-I-S-S-I, and you guys know the song. Like, they would basically kind of ship us, and it was really, really weird. Obviously, me and First decided to just ignore it and pretend it didn't exist. But this was middle school, and middle school, you end up getting a lot of things, I guess, peer pressured onto you. So I remember, I want to say like 2 weeks went by, and I started to realize that slowly, she would always come later than usual, until one day I saw she was like half an hour late for a game session, and I was like really annoyed. And when she finally came, I said to her, hey, what happened? Like, I thought you were gonna show up earlier. Sorry, I'm like hanging out like with this new group of friends, and like, I don't know, they're being really weird. Why? What are they saying? Well, they're saying like me and you should like, you know, become a thing. Become a thing? Yeah, like, you know, become boyfriend and girlfriend. What? Why would we do that? We're not trying to get married. Now, you gotta understand, the reason I said that was because back then, when I was younger, my parents would raise me to basically only date if you were going to marry the girl, which, to be fair, I honestly love that idea, and I wish that still existed to this time and age. But But let's be real here, boys. It's not real, okay? There's no such thing as dating to marry. There's dating to, you know, do the devil's tango. But obviously, we're not going to talk about that because this is so long ago. But going on with the story, I remember I started to realize that over the days of basically me and her hanging out, a lot of the time she would always like, you know, hang out with this group of girls and then hang out with me right after. Until one day I decided to like walk past them in the hallway, and one of the girls ended up pointing me out while she was in the group with them saying, "Hey, Bubba, why don't you like actually like, you know, like get your girlfriend over here? What? We're not getting married." Aw, he's already thinking about marriage, guys. Now, the girl that said this was in grade 8, and she was a lot older than me and, you know, the girl I was playing my 3DS with at the time. But I remember it got really weird to the point where I remember after school that day specifically, I remember I was walking home from school and she ended up running up behind me, the girl that I would play, you know, my 3DS with. And she ran up to me saying, "Hey, Bubba, I wanted to ask you something." Yeah, sure. What's up? Well, like, I was wondering, like, can me and you, like, maybe, like, go on a date? Wait, what do you mean you want to go on a date? Yeah, like, you know, like, me and you, like, hang out. Just us. Oh, well, I mean, we do that a lot already. Yeah, no, I know that, but, like, me and you go on a, like, a hangout romantically. Now, at this moment, I started to realize that she was asking me for a date, but at the time where this video takes place, I thought the date was, like, the type of plant that's, like, a sweet plant that you usually eat with, like, tea or something. I didn't know what, like, an actual, like, romantic date was. And that's when I told her, "Oh, well, I don't know. It's my first time actually, like, going on a date." At this moment, her eyes ended up opening wide, and she told me that it was hers as well. And that's when me and her, we ended up planning an actual date. And boy, was this the most weirdest thing ever, because what ended up happening next, I gotta say, made me not want to go on another one. Because I remember the next day after school, we ended up planning our date at that time. And me and her, we ended up meeting up in front of the school, and all the girls that she was friends with were watching me and her walk away from the school. And she looks at me saying, "Bubba, hold my hand." "What? Why do you want me to hold your hand? We're just walking." "Hold my hand." And at this moment, I ended up grabbing her hand, and me and her were walking away. All of them said, "Ooh, like they're actually dating," and making it a way bigger deal than it actually was. But I remember as me and her went around the corner and no one saw us, I ended up letting go of her hand, and I looked at her saying, "Okay, well, what's next on this date?" I don't know. Do you want to go get food?" I had lunch at lunchtime." "No, like, let's go get, like, actual food." "Okay." And what me and her actually ended up doing was we ended up going to this field that had, like, I guess, like, a berry bush in the far corner, and me and her walked up to it together, and we started eating the berries that were being grown there. I guess in a way it was kind of cute what we were doing, but in my mind, it was just us hanging out romantically until she decided to do something that kind of made me feel weird. Because after we finished eating berries at the bush, out of nowhere, we ended up basically sitting on this log together, and she looks over at me and says, "Bubba, to make this date complete, I need you to do something for me." Yeah, sure. What am I doing?" "Well, you need to kiss me." "I need to what?" Now, at this moment, I never kissed a girl, okay? I never have done it at this time, and I was a very innocent person. But I remember she decided to basically just, like, close her eyes and lean towards me. And yeah, I think that was when I actually, like, you know, decided to just be like, whatever. I ended up kissing her, and I will say this, it was really awkward because out of nowhere, all the guys that I was friends with that went to go search for baddies way earlier in the story ended up jumping around the corner with the girls that the chick I was with was friends with as well, hopped around the corner, and yeah, I'm not gonna lie, it was the most embarrassing thing ever. At this moment, I realized that going on dates at a super young age was not worth it, and it made me realize that it's just embarrassing. To be honest, I had more fun playing Lego Batman. But hey, honestly, tell me how old you guys were when you guys went on your first date, and on top of that, what would you guys do on your first date? Would you guys go to a berry bush like I did? If not, then just follow for more embarrassing stories just like this one. Peace out, guys.